The movie begins with a display of the National Space Program. Inside, an anxious Kat paces as she awaits the doctor. Her friend Jenna is beside her and urges her to sit. She offers her comfort, encouraging her to be strong whatever the outcome of the visit. Soon enough, the doctor arrives, and Kat is called in. In the doctor's office, as they discuss, it emerges that Kat has developed a blind spot in one of her eyes, following a recent accident. Regrettably, he informs her that due to this, she cannot be approved for the space program, as her vision fails to meet the program's requirements. Kat leaves the office devastated. As she makes her way out of the Space Center, she is almost run over by a man who speeds by on a scooter. Eventually, she spots her brother who has come to pick her up, and they both make their way over to his car parked out front. On asking, she tells him about the doctor's visit and how she has been disqualified from the space program, but fortunately, still holds a job at the center. She adds that she is, however, now deemed unfit for all space missions due to her vision. Her brother tries to cheer her up, reminding her that at least she'll get to spend Christmas with the family, and he tells her how proud he is of her. Andy and Kat arrive home to find their dad Bill hanging the outdoor Christmas lights. Concerned, they rush over to offer him help. He accepts help from Kat, but sends Andy in, using it as an opportunity to test her vision. Soon enough, they are done with the lights and make their way inside to join Andy and her mom Jenny in the kitchen, as they make the Christmas cookies. Kat gets offended and leaves with her dad to hang more lights, after hearing that this activity too would be used as an avenue to exercise her vision. Left alone, Andy and his mom talk, and he gets a bright idea to cheer up his sister. He excuses himself for a moment. Meanwhile, Kat lies in her bedroom sulking as she tests her vision. She heaves a sigh of defeat as she lays down. She then gets a text from Jenna, who lets her know she'll be coming over with milkshakes. Andy arrives at Apollo, the planetarium. Convinced no one is watching, he takes one of the flyers on display before turning to leave. He's stopped in his tracks, however, by one of the staff, a young lady named Celeste. He explains to her his reason for doing this, being his sister, and she allows him to get away with it this time. Kat sits in their living room reading a book on her tablet. Andy arrives with the flyer, enthusiastically handing it over to her. To his disappointment, Kat is unwilling to go to the exhibit, stating that the planetarium would only remind her of everything she had lost. He encourages her, telling her not to dwell on the accident. As they speak, Jenna arrives with the milkshakes, and Andy takes his leave. She narrates how their boss Ed had ushered her out of work to get them, after hearing about her doctor's report. As they continue in conversation, Jenna shares her hope for Kat to return to work after her medical leave, and not long after, her gaze settles on the flyer Andy got from the planetarium. She asks to know what it's about, and Kat explains it's an exhibit her brother had wanted her to go to. Jenna reveals that the planetarium director had reached out to the program about that same exhibit, seeking a consultant, to which she offered Kat's name. She tries to persuade Kat to go for it, pointing out that she has so much free time now. Kat is reluctant, arguing that she doesn't, but Jenna won't have any of it, and eventually, Kat gives in, agreeing to reach out to them. The next day, Kat makes her way over to the planetarium where she accidentally bumps into a little girl in a wheelchair. A conversation starts between the two, and Kat is amazed to find that Lila knows so much about space. Her father soon walks in, apologizing on her behalf, and Kat finds that he works there as the planetarium curator. She introduces herself, explaining that she has actually been looking for him, and Lila is surprised to find she is an astronaut. David, however, is certain that there must be a mix-up in ops that they head over to Director Renee's office to get things cleared up. In the office, Renee explains that although David has done some good work in the past, she needs a touch of experience on this exhibit that she is sure Kat can bring, as she herself had worked on the probe that got to the sun's surface. David, however, is still offended that he couldn't have been told beforehand, but Renee reiterates that it was for the best of the exhibit. With that being said, she raises her next concern, getting people to attend the exhibit in this busy Yuletide season. She consults the two for ideas, and Kat suggests they tie it all down to Christmas, incorporating elements of the season into the exhibit. Renee enthusiastically agrees. She looks over at David, who assures her that they would both make sure to do an excellent job. David and Kat begin strategizing for the exhibit, making their way through the planetarium as they plan. They find Lila, who has forsaken her homework to come and see Kat the astronaut. She asks her some questions about her job in space, and wants to know if she will go into space one day. The question catches Kat off guard, and she struggles for an answer. David seems to notice this, and has Lila go back to her homework. Kat resides in another area of the planetarium, viewing blueprints for her exhibit. Her brother walks in, startling her. He has brought her lunch, and he also asks to make sure she is all right before leaving. Andy goes on to meet with Celeste. They take on a conversation about the activities she has planned for the season at the planetarium. Andy finds interest in one of them, ornament making. and after she explains to him what it entails, he is eager to join. The activity is strictly meant for kids though, but Celeste decides to let him be a part. Meanwhile, Kat and David are in his office, going over the plans made so far. He notices Kat struggled to read through them and comments on this. This prompts her to open up about her blind spot, revealing that it has hindered her from going into space. David instantly empathizes with her. Kat takes the opportunity to ask why he had seemed resistant to Renee's ideas the other day, and he explains that he isn't typically the creative type, but tends to be more rudimentary, as opposed to Renee. Kat then promises to come up with a plan that incorporates both their ideologies. Later that evening, David walks Kat out of the planetarium to get a ride home. She asks him over for pizza the next day so they can continue planning, but soon realizes that he is married. David explains, however, that he is no longer married to Lila's mom. Kat is embarrassed for bringing this up and hurries to get a ride to leave. The next day, Kat and Jenna go Christmas shopping. Kat tells Jenna about David and about how their planning for the exhibit is going. Kat spots an ornament she is sure her mom would love and picks it out for her. At home, Kat and her family bond over decorating their Christmas tree, and their parents get to know that Andy is currently job hunting. Every year, it is their tradition to get a special ornament, and this year, their mother surprises Kat with a sun-inspired ornament, and she is absolutely delighted. She thanks her mom. That night, Kat catches her dad stealing Christmas cookies from the kitchen. She promises not to tell, and in a moment of bonding, she shares her joy of working at the planetarium and her fears of returning to work at NSP. Her dad encourages her and offers her comfort. Kat and Andy are at the planetarium the next day with the toys he has gotten for the toy drive, and he introduces her to Celeste. Kat leaves for work soon after. Celeste mentions how overworked she has been, planning for the drive and the decoration party. Andy then offers to help her, explaining that he was free this period as he was out of a job and currently in search of another. Celeste is ecstatic about this. Kat introduces her big plan to David, describing how she has incorporated facts about the sun in the exhibit, relating it to Christmas. David isn't very enthusiastic about her idea, but Kat tries to get him to understand the significance of adding a cultural background to the exhibit. Lila returns from school to meet Kat and her father, walking through the planetarium halls, reviewing their plans. She has got a ton of questions for Kat, and Kat gives her the go-ahead. She starts shooting her questions, and eventually, asks one that leads to Kat revealing her visual impairment, explaining that it has stopped her from being able to go into space. Lila relates to her predicament and offers her comfort. Kat starts her day off helping her mom with making cookies. She heads to work and meets David at his office. He apologizes for Lila's question the day before and asks to know if there is any way he could be of help. Kat offhandedly mentions the trouble she has with doing her eye exercises, and David comes up with an idea to help her. He invites her out for the evening. Maybe he's not so rudimentary after all. They go out curling with Andy and Celeste. Andy explains the rules to everyone, and the game begins. It takes on a slightly competitive nature with the pairs taking turns. They take on several exhilarating rounds, with Kat and David's pair emerging as the winner. With the game over, David and Kat are left alone as they're ready to go home. She struggles to take off her skates, and David gets down to help her. Kat lets him know she had fun, and David is happy to have been of help. She's about to tell him something but is suddenly interrupted by a text that makes her leave abruptly. She explains that she is already late for a meetup with Jenna. She thanks a mildly startled David once again before hurrying off. Kat meets up with Jenna and updates her on all the events of earlier that evening, recounting how it was all David's idea for them to go curling. Jenna gets the notion that Kat may be developing feelings for David and asks her if this is true, but she denies this, and Jenna teases her. Jenna reckons that the job at the planetarium must be making her happy, and Kat instantly agrees. She offers Jenna a mild thank you for pushing her to take the job. Jenna tells Kat about a job offer at the Monarch Space Center from a friend who works there. A space has opened up for the position of curator, and she wants to know if Kat may be interested. She lets her know that NSP is still very much anticipating her return. Kat doesn't seem very enthused, but Jenna lets her know that there is no pressure. She assures her she only wants her to be in a place that makes her happy, as she has seen that working at the planetarium has brought her a lot of joy. Kat tells her she is unsure, but Jenna suggests that she keep an open mind. The next day, Kat makes her way into David's office with a cup of latte, apologizing for her abrupt flight yesterday, as well as thanking him for the outing. She finds him looking bothered and asks what is up. He tells her that Renee has sent him a review of their plans for the exhibit, with suggestions. He explains that he had never had issues with her predecessor Victor, who had always just trusted him to do his work, compared to Renee, whom he finds a handful. Kat moves over to have a look and finds no issue. She assures a doubtful David that they would have no trouble in adjusting their plans to Renee's taste, and he brightens at her charisma. Renee walks in unannounced, asking to see if they have gotten her notes, and David affirms, assuring her that they will soon begin implementing her suggestions. On leaving, Kat asks David if he has any ideas, and he does. He suggests that the kids use viewfinders to view the solar flares. This would make the exhibit more interactive, as Renee had suggested. On the other side, Andy arrives with tickets for the decoration party. He hands them over to Celeste and informs her that he has tweaked the original designs and printed out a new batch, and hopes that she likes it. Celeste is thrilled with the new design and impressed by Andy's incredible talent. She suggests that the planetarium go to him for their flyer designs, and Andy is delighted. She mentions that she has yet to get the supplies for the fast-approaching decorating party. Andy asks for her shopping list, and much to Celeste's surprise, offers to help her do the shopping. The remainder of the day plays out in a montage, with changes being added to the exhibit, and Andy goofing around as he returns with the supplies. The props and other materials for the exhibit arrive, and Kat and David both watch the crew set them up. Finally, David leads Kat over to show her the earlier discussed viewfinder, which she happily approves. Some days later, they get Lila to review the fully prepared exhibit, and she gives it a wholesome pass. When asked, she describes her favorite part as being Santa's son, and also the part where they were taught the cultural background of the sun, both of Kat's additions. She shoots David an all-knowing look as Lila speaks, and being fully satisfied with the outcome of their work, announces the end of her consultancy. She starts to leave, grabbing her bag, before turning again to face David, who appears saddened by news of her departure. Kat looks the same, and they both stand there for a while, each waiting for the other to speak. Lila interrupts them, reminding her dad that he had promised her a snow cone. The little girl invites Kat, and she happily tags along. They chat over the cones, with Kat narrating how on Christmas Eve, during her younger years, she and her family would gather to track Santa, listening on the radio to know when he would show up at their house. This gives David an idea. He suggests that they hold a Santa tracking party at the planetarium on Christmas Eve, and Kat is already bursting with ideas. Lila leaves to get more sprinkles for her cone, and the two continue talking. He recruits her to help with this new event, and she happily accepts. David is pleased and offers to run it by Renee. It's the big day, and the planetarium is packed with people. Kat is excited. David, on the other hand, is a bit on edge. Renee walks up to the pair. She is happy with the turn-up and recounts all David has told her about Kat's contributions to the exhibit's success. She thanks them both for their hard work before going to join the first group. Not long after, Kat's parents arrive. Her mother is so excited. She turns to greet David, unabashedly informing him that he makes Kat so happy. Classic parent. Kat is embarrassed and introduces them both to David. Her father is eager to see the exhibit, so they start off to enter before Andy comes running in. He says he's been spared some minutes to have a look, and so they continue along. Kat takes them through the exhibit, talking about the cultural history of the sun. Her mom is surprised to find that there are so many ties between the sun and Christmas. As they continue through, David announces he has to go get Lila from out front, and the rest continue. They reach the Porter probe section of the exhibit, which has a magnificent view of the sun on full display, images captured by the probe. Her parents remind her once again of how proud they are, and right about then, Andy's allotted time runs out, and he has to return to Celeste and the decorating party. David returns with Lila, who happily announces that she'll be crafting the Porter probe as her ornament, and Kat just loves the idea. She introduces Lila to her parents. Lila asks for Kat to take her through the exhibit, and her parents leave for the decorating party. Celeste and Andy finish setting up for the party. He has had some templates printed out for the kids to help them out with their designs. Celeste spots them and once again is amazed by his skill, reiterating that he has a real talent for it. Andy's parents arrive to help with the party, and Celeste introduces herself. The party kicks off, and the place is buzzing with kids crafting space-themed ornaments of all sorts. Bill and Jenny go around supervising, and Kat watches Lila, impressed with her work so far. She heads over to meet David, and urges him to come closer and have a look at Lila's work, but he stays put. Celeste moves over to join Andy, and they joy over how great the party is going. She lets him know he will be helping her hang the ornaments when the party is over, before leaving. Andy's dad comes to join him. He congratulates him on the party, and then grabs one of the templates. He tells him he has noticed he has a real talent for design, and advises him to consider a career in design before walking away. Lila has just finished making her probe, and Kat congratulates her on a fantastic job. With extra time on their hands, Kat suggests that they make another ornament, and Lila is up for the challenge. They start off, but just then, an unruly kid steps on the probe, purposely ruining it. Someone should have put a caution sign on that kid. Lila is devastated and goes to hide. A concerned Kat follows after. Meanwhile, David discusses the tracking party idea with Renee, adding that Kat has offered to assist with it. Renee is pleased with the idea and gives them the go-ahead. With Renee gone, he turns to find that Kat and Lila are no longer there, and panic takes over. Kat finds Lila crying in the theater and tries to comfort her. She apologizes for her ornament and tries to convince her that she can still make an even better one. But Lila doesn't seem sure. Lila also tells her that the boy who stepped on her ornament had also been meaning to her earlier that week at school, telling her that she would never be able to go into space. Kat then reminds her of her own story, telling her that she now understands that the work she does on Earth is very much appreciated, especially by people like Lila, and that going into space may not be everything. Lila brightens and is now ready to go back inside and make another probe. Just then, David rushes in. He sighs in relief, glad to have finally found them, and then starts making a fuss, asking Lila if she's all right. He turns his attention to Kat, asking why she hadn't bothered to let him know Lila was upset. Lila tries to explain that everything is okay, and that Kat has already fixed everything. Kat tries to explain that she was just trying to help, and David thanks her but informs her that it's his job to take care of Lila. Lila doesn't get why her dad is making so much of a deal out of it, but he argues that it is a big deal. Kat is heartbroken by David's reaction and lets him know that she thought it was okay to help after everything. She tells Lila she'll meet her inside, and David soon realizes what he's done. He calls out to Kat as she leaves, but she doesn't respond. The next day, Kat has Jenna over, and she voices her hurt about the events of last night. She is still in shock over David's reaction, and cannot comprehend why he had reacted like that. Jenna assures her that he must have come to his senses as soon as he saw she was hurt. She then asks if she should still go ahead with the surprise she had asked for, and Kat affirms, certain Lila would love it in spite of David. She thanks Jenna for all her help, and reminds her to make it to their next party, since she had missed the first one. Jenna lets Kat know that her friend Roy, from the Monarch Space Center in Chicago, will also be in attendance, as he has been eager to see her work. The doorbell rings and Kat's mom goes to get it. To everyone's surprise, it's David. He apologizes for coming unannounced, and Kat assures him it's fine. She introduces him to her friend Jenna, and her mom offers him a seat and some Christmas cookies, but he declines, explaining he has just come for a brief talk with Kat. Jenna and Kat's mom both excuse them, and they both head outside to talk. David admits that he had overreacted last night and apologizes, but Kat is still offended that he couldn't trust her to look out for Lila. David assures her that he does, and then begins to recall how Lila was hurt really bad on one of her arms by another kid during a game when she was 7. She hid it from everyone, including him, and by the time he found out, it had already gotten inflamed, so much so that he had to take her to urgent care, where she was given antibiotics. When he had asked her why she hid it from him, she admitted it was because she was embarrassed. To this end, he lets Kat know that Lila has always been a tough kid, not wanting to let anyone treat her differently because of her condition. And so she has always had trouble admitting when she was hurt. And that is why he has always protected her the way he does, lashing out like he did yesterday. Kat lets him know she understands, but feels like Lila did a great job at communicating her emotions the day before. David tells her that Lila had said the same thing, and that she had also made another Porter probe. Kat asks how the other one had turned out, and David opts that she go see for herself. They arrive at the planetarium to find Andy and Celeste already halfway through with hanging the ornaments from the party. Andy decides he needs a lunch break, and recruits Celeste to go with him to get milkshakes from the diner nearby. With just the both of them left, Kat and David continue from where the other two left off, with Kat getting on the ladder to hang the ornaments as David hands them to her. Kat is delighted by the children's work as she places them on the tree. She asks David if he has ever considered becoming an astronaut and working for the space program. He says he had in his college days, and when asked what had changed, he reveals that he had married young, and becoming a father had been a major turnaround in his life. He wanted to be there to watch Lila grow. Kat lets him know he has done a wonderful job raising her, and he smiles. He hands her Lila's probe, and she is excited to see that it is even better than the first. She puts it up on the tree, and pulls out her phone to take a photo. As she does, her foot slips, and she falls off the ladder, but David catches her. He asks if she is okay, and luckily she is. Andy and Celeste return with takeout so they can all eat together and find them both on the floor. They make sure they're okay and let them know there's takeout, shooting each other an all-knowing look as Kat and David help themselves off the floor. Talk about chemistry. The next morning, Kat makes her way over to David's home, ready to show Lila her surprise. She leads them both to NSP, and they are greeted by Jenna. She introduces herself to Lila and tells her all about her job at the center. Lila is impressed, and Jenna leads them along. She takes them to a room where a bunch of her colleagues are working, and Kat spots her friend and co-worker Sharon, who she worked on the Porter probe with. She is so excited to see her, and she introduces her to Lila and David. She recounts all the exciting work they did together before continuing on. Jenna introduces Lila to her colleague George. His job is to monitor the crew on the space station. Lila notices he is in a wheelchair and asks if he has always used one. He lets her know he has, and Lila is impressed that he gets to work here. He lets her know that he is invaluable to the team and is sure that one day she will be too, when she gets to work there. Lila is happy and informs him that she would want to do research on the sun someday, just like Kat. Kat is touched by her words, and so is her dad, and they both look up at each other. It's Christmas Eve, and Kat and her family all have breakfast as they prepare to head out to the planetarium for the tracking party. The time finally arrives, and all the kids are gathered at the planetarium. David walks into his office and stumbles upon Kat getting ready. He apologizes and starts to leave, but she calls him back. She tells him it's all right and that she actually needs his help with her necklace. He comes back in to help her and finally gets it done. She turns around to thank him, and he lets her know that she looks beautiful. She thanks him for the compliment and pauses for a moment before leaning in to kiss him. They are interrupted by Lila, who calls out for her dad. She tells him she's been waiting for him so she can get hot chocolate and hurries him along. Lila wants a cookie and a cup of chocolate, and Kat does the honors of getting them for her. As she moves through the crowd, David notices that her coordination is getting better and points it out to her. She is happy to hear so. Jenna walks over to them, admiring Kat's outfit. She tells her that someone may want to talk to her after the show. Renee calls for everyone's attention. She wants to give a vote of thanks before the start of the party. Firstly, she gives special thanks to Celeste for her work on the toy drive, as well as the decorating party, and to Andy, who assisted her. She also gives special thanks to David and Kat for their work on the exhibit. They are all applauded, and without further ado, the Santa tracking party is opened. Kat and David anchor the party, commentating on Santa's whereabouts as his journey all over the globe is displayed on the screen. The children watch in joyful awe, awaiting Santa. After staging a call-in from air traffic control, they distribute candy canes to all the waiting children. After the party, Kat meets with the people Jenna talked about. On finishing with them, she is met by Roy from the Monarch Space Center. He tells her how great a job she did at the exhibit, especially the Porter probe section, and asks her to use the holidays to consider his job offer. He hands her his business card before walking away. David is behind her and wants to know who that is. Kat explains that he wants to offer her a job at the Monarch Space Center in Chicago. David doesn't seem as happy about it as she is, and asks if she is actually going to take it. Kat is surprised he is upset, and he explains he thought she would be returning to NSP. Kat tells him she hasn't made her decision yet, and David tells her not to walk away from something she loves. It's finally Christmas, and the family waits for Kat to wake up so they can start the day's activities. She eventually does get out of bed and comes in to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Andy gets everyone to start opening their presents, starting with their dad. Celeste and Jenna arrive just as Kat is about to leave. Celeste explains that she has just brought in a gift for Andy, but was told by Jenna to come in. Andy walks in just then, surprised to see her, and welcomes her in. Kat leaves then, promising to return soon. It's no wonder where she's off to. Andy and Celeste settle down, and she hands him his present. She tells him it's a thank you gift for all his help at the planetarium. Inside is a beginner's book on design, and he uses this opportunity to announce to her that he has decided to start taking design courses and hopes to get a degree and build a career from there. Celeste is elated. She asks where this will take him, but he explains that they are online courses. He then asks her out to dinner, to which she delightedly agrees. Kat arrives at David's place. Inside, she starts to apologize about yesterday, but David cuts her short. He apologizes for making assumptions about her and what she wants to do with her life. He explains that it's because she has come to mean so much to both himself and Lila that the thought of her moving away seemed devastating. He finishes and she continues, letting him know that he was right and that she actually does love her job at NSP. He asks if this means she won't take the job offer, and her response is yes. Shocker. Didn't see that one coming. He's pleased and asks what made her change her mind. She tells him she had already made the decision some time ago and was planning to tell Roy that before she got interrupted. He laughs, knowing that was his fault. She also adds that she loves her job at NSP and that she kissed a pretty amazing man and hopes to do it again, clearly flirting with him. She leans in for another kiss, but is interrupted once again by little Lila, who is happy to find she is here. Boy, does this kid have bad timing? Kat hands her a present for Christmas, and she opens it to find a projector. Lila thanks her and she invites them over to her place for Christmas dinner. David looks to get Lila's consent, and she is more than happy to go. They arrive at her place, and everyone is happy to see them. David hands her mother Jenny a present, and she leads little Lila off to go get cookies. He also says hello to her father. Kat tells David she's got him a present, and he starts apologizing for not getting her one too before she pulls out a mistletoe over them. Smart thinking, Kat. It's a pleasant surprise, and he kisses her before they both go to join the rest of the family in the living room, as Jenna teases them from behind.